all of us are the kind of person that we want a good life, right? We want to feel good. We want to have good relationships. And we want to accomplish things. Those are the three big areas. We want to feel good. You don't want to be depressed or anxious or fearful. You want to feel good. You want to feel strong and happy and joyful. We want to relate well. We want to have friends and significant others and kids we get along with or extended family or whoever it is. We want our relationships to go well. And we want to accomplish dreams and goals. All of us are like that. You're created for those three things. Now, here's what happens. Some people think that they're going to go out and get those three things. I see people with great relationships. They say, I'm going to go get one. I'm going to go get a spouse. I'm going to find somebody to fall in love with. All right. I'm going to go make some friends. Or in the area of reaching goals, I'm going to go make $1 million. Or I'm going to go, get this career in this particular area. And they go out and pursue it. And it does not work out. And the reason it doesn't work out is not because what they were seeking was bad, it wasn't bad. And not because they necessarily didn't have the aptitude or the talents or the brains to make that happen. Many times they do. But the reason it doesn't work out is they didn't have the internal house in order to match the house that they wanted to live in one of those areas of life. They hadn't developed the internal skills and capacities that it requires to match that kind of outcome, to have that kind of life, because they were focused on the outside, not the inside. For example, let's say I have a goal of I want to have a good relationship with somebody for life, significant other, marriage, whatever. That's what I want. But what if I have a part of me that feels easily criticized and gets defensive and reactive whenever somebody gives me feedback about something? I can find the perfect person, but yet I get in that relationship and obviously things are going to happen that are imperfect. And I'm going to respond in a way that the inside of my house, my makeup doesn't match the kind of relationship I want to have. So I can't have it. It won't work. Well, first of all, I probably won't even attract the right kind of person. But secondly, even if I did, I wouldn't be able to pull it off. And that's what happens a lot of times. You'll see, a common thing you see that you hear from women a lot of times is men that have commitment phobias. And he's a wonderful guy. He's got all sorts of good qualities and everything's there, the whole package. They get everything they want. He's smart and he's bright and he attacks life and he's funny and he's willing and he's caring and, he's attractive and whatever it is they're looking for. And you get into a relationship and the closer he gets, he starts to withdraw. And then ultimately, boom, he's gone. And then you find out, you meet somebody and go, yeah, that's what he does. I've known his last 4 girlfriends. That's what he does. See, what he did was he never looked at the inside. He didn't focus on the inside. What were his fears that he needed to resolve in order to be able to have what he wants? I remember, it's not even a memory, it's kind of my life story. I've written about this. You might have heard me say it before. I was in college and my life had kind of crashed and burned all around me, and I was really, really depressed. And I was sitting there in my dorm room thinking about how do you make a relationship work? How do you find the right person? how do you find what you're supposed to do with your life? How do you find a career? How do you even make it work? How do people become successful in life? And how do you, and I was just, nothing was working. How do I get undepressed? Nothing was working. And I had tried a bunch of stuff, wasn't working. And I was sitting there in my dorm room and I looked up on the bookshelf and there was a Bible that I hadn't read since I got to college, and went over and I picked it up and opened it up. Here's the short version of the story. And it fell open and a verse just popped out at me and it said this: seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you as well. And I read it again. And what's it saying about if I seek God and his righteousness? What's that? Well, basically, one way to kind of understand that is getting right inside, growing, making our internal life one that's going to match an external life that we want, you know, getting over fears of of confronting people or setting boundaries, or fears of being vulnerable, or fears of taking risks, or fears of developing skills, or whatever that is, and getting healthy inside. See, it said, seek first that, seek the internal growth in the internal life first, and then all this other stuff is going to come. But it can't come until we grow. And this is why I always talk about, the beginning of the thought for the day on the show, always, some psychological truth or scientific principle, and show how, that's what the Bible says as well. And I love it. In that place, it says that in Proverbs 4, it says, guard your heart with all diligence, for from it flow the issues of life. In other words, develop our internal world, because from our internal world are going to flow all these issues of life. Okay. If we're dealing with an enabling person in our life, that's an issue in your life, that somebody keeps using you and you keep bailing them out, where does that come from? Well, we can only have that issue in our life if we haven't dealt with the internal world of us, of that we are an enabler. And so it really, I'm not saying that bad people don't happen to good people. I'm not saying there aren't real victims in the world, but I am saying that generally speaking, you see somebody with a good marriage, they've got good skills. You see somebody with a good career, they've developed good capacities and good abilities. You see somebody who's a good leader, they've developed good leadership skills on the soft sides of working with people as well as their industry. So here's what I see over and over and over: people's lives crashing and burning, and then they go into, quote, recovery or therapy or whatever, which is a really good move. But why wait until it doesn't work? Why wait until life doesn't work? Why wait until it crashes and burns? Why not get into a path of developing your internal life now? Because you're going to have to do it anyway. If you don't find the relationships and the career and the success or whatever it is, you're going to have to do it anyway, because that's what fruitful people do. Is the ones with good relationships, they've developed their internal world, they've healed the wounds and all of that. So let's just do it. Since we're going to have to do it, let's just do it now, so you can have what you want, even in the relationship that you're in, so you can have what you want sooner rather than later. Develop the internal world first. So what path are you on to do that? One of the reasons we do this program, one of the reasons we have our boundaries.me subscription service, which you can go to boundaries.me and check it out, is for that very reason. It's about internal growth. It's about changing your capacities. I remember I was talking to a couple one time, and I said, the way you describe it, what you guys describe, is that you want to have a 10 marriage. I go, yeah, we want a 10 marriage. That's our dream. I said, but you're both threes. How can you have a 10 marriage if you're a 3 in your ability to communicate? She says something to you and you get angry. That's a 3. You turn around, walk out the door. Now we're going to take you down to a 2. You could sit there and just don't say anything. I'd take you to a 5. But you're not going to have a 10 without developing the capacity to lean into that conflict and develop some empathy and listen and trying to understand. See, those are 10 skills. So what path are you in? Find a therapist, recovery group, join boundaries.me, begin to learn, read some books, watch some videos, get a buddy system, get a support system, get a mentor, get a life coach. What path are you in to get there? What path are you in to get there? That's the way we're going to grow. That's the way we're going to grow. Internal world comes first. And to add another Bible picture of this, Jesus said a good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. So if we're dysfunctional, we can't have a functional relationship. If we're functional, we can't have a dysfunctional relationship. We might be with a dysfunctional person, maybe, but we're going to deal with them in functional ways, which is going to exert all sorts of pressure and other things to change the relationship, if not the person. So just something to think about. Everybody wants a great external life, but got to develop the skills and capacities to do it. And you know what? It never ends. And this is an exciting thing, guys. It's really cool to keep growing. We were in our Tori and I've been in the same couples group now for I'm going to say it's getting close to 20 years. The same small group. And last night we had our annual Christmas dinner with our group. And shout out to them. I don't know if I don't think they listen to this. I think one or two of them say, "Hey, I saw you on Instagram today." Anyway, love you guys if you're listening. But one of the women in the group had gone through she had talked about this. She went through a 21-day, very unique therapeutic program. And it was really, really designed in a very different way than most treatment programs. We'll go into the specifics, doesn't matter. But as she was describing it, I remember I was familiar with it and the way it was designed and who kind of invented it and the process. And I told her, I said, I have always wanted to do that. Just for me to find 21 days, it's a really, really tough deal. But I was sitting there thinking, I wonder if there's a way I can figure out how to do that this year. And then this morning, as I came in my study, I'd gotten a new a mailer for some new continuing ed courses, and I was like so bummed that, gosh, I can only take one or two, and then I wish I had time to take all of these. And the point being this, that when there are areas of life that you love, and obviously I love psychology and growth, this developing ourselves should never end. It should be a hunger that we want to do instead of, oh crap, I got to go do that. It should be something that we learn to value because the rewards and the returns we get from it are so huge. So invest. You know, Proverbs says, sell all you have to buy wisdom. Invest in yourself. Find a way, find the time. If it takes money, find the money to go do something to invest in yourself. And that, join a small group, do something. It doesn't have to cost money, but grow your insides if you want the outsides.